2014 Dodge Ram 3500 front brake pad replacement. And probably got maybe 24 millimeter lug nuts. Turn them lefty loosey, righty tighty, so break them loose a turn or two on the ground, then jack it up and use safety stands. Plenty of good metal underneath here to jack up on. So the pumpkin's off centered, you can't necessarily jack up on that to get the front end up, but maybe right there, more in the center, if you'd like. So it's pretty easy. 8 bolts here, 2 bolts here for the caliper itself, 2 bolts for the caliper bracket, and take the rotor off. That's the basics. So we're going to zip off this tire and get to the brake caliper. So we get the wheels off, then we can turn the wheel to the left or right to make easier access for the bolts in the back on the caliper. Just take a look at it. There's clips on here on the rotor from the factory, so it's probably original brakes. Check the brake pad thickness. Pretty thin. Just take a note on the other side. Signs of overheating. This brake pad is definitely worn out more than the other side, so it's something to look at, look for. You definitely want to collapse your caliper pistons and check the slides before you go too much further. Seem to collapse pretty good, then we can check the slides. I did the same for both sides and they both seem to be moving well. The caliper pistons collapsed and not all the way yet, but we'll go further as needed. And the slides are good, so we can probably continue, and the caliper is probably going to be just fine. It's kind of handy to save some of these for when you put the new rotor back on, help hold things in place. Just going to bend these all back, and then you can turn it off, unscrew it, so to speak. I have there's actually a 6 on there. I don't know they need 6 to hold the rotor on, at least I don't. So I'm just going to take the other 2 off. I have 4, should be plenty to hold the rotor on. You're dealing in hundreds of foot-pounds, so it's a good idea to have a good selection of half-inch sockets, extensions, breaker bars, torque wrench. So I'm using a 22 millimeter for the lug nuts that I had, 16 millimeter for that bolt there, and 24 millimeter the big bolt. Alright, so I was able to collapse the pistons all the way back. I actually used a couple larger pry bars to make it just a little easier. So they're back, and we'll take off the caliper and then the caliper mount. We'll be using air tools, but you'll probably want to use half-inch breaker bar. tap this with a hammer. You want to machine this or replace it when you're doing brakes. We'll be replacing them. If you're going to get a machine, then probably use a block of wood or something and pound on that. Don't pound right on the metal. Hey, I'm Todd. Thanks for watching my video, and do all that good YouTube stuff. Share it, like it, hit the notification bell, thumbs up, subscribe, all the things that you do. Thanks for taking the time to watch my video and saving some money perhaps. I also invite you to check out the links in the description for some long-term savings with the stock market, and checking out the links for either E-Trade or M1, where you can save and trade fractional stocks, or Webull, which is usually giving away a couple free stocks for just depositing $100. So I strongly invite you to invest in your future and check them out. Thanks, and let's get to the video. Got these slides just kind of fit in place, friction fit. So we have new ones in a bag. Certainly clean these up with a rag and some soap and water maybe, or just some emery cloth or something. You can clean them up and reuse them. Caliper slides were good, but we'll just put a little more lube on them anyway. Alright, got things cleaned up. I'm going to run a little sandpaper on here, but otherwise we're pretty good to go. And we'll start putting stuff together. Mashed a couple of these down with a hammer. This is our Asbestos rust preventing technology coated rotor. You don't need to wash it. However, you get a regular rotor. This is just bare metal. You'll need to wash it, warm soap and water, towel dry it on both sides, and then you can install it. Start everything by hand. We'll torque those down probably in the 200 range. So I did put just a little bit of lubricant on all the slides here. Put a little lubricant on here just to help with noise issues. We'll slide our pads into place. Of course, if you haven't collapsed your pistons all the way, now's the time. Put a used brake pad in there, use channel locks or a C-clamp, or they have a special tool you can use. So you can find that online for your local parts store for collapsing pistons. Collapse them and we can slide it back on. Alright, and we'll tighten those down. Of course, do the other side. And we'll go to the master cylinder, talk about the fluid level. And of course, do the other side. Did I say that? Yep. Check the fluid level, get the tires on, I'll give you some torque specs. The big bolts for the caliper mounting bracket are 260 foot-pounds. That's pretty dang tight. 24 foot-pounds for the little bolts for the caliper. 150 foot-pounds for the lug nuts. Tighten them in a crisscross pattern as tight as you can get them when it's up in the air. And then drop it on the ground and slightly so the wheels are touching so it doesn't spin, then torque it down the rest of the way. So here's the brake master cylinder. Cap. There's a maximum and a minimum down below here. Keep an eye on the fluid level. Brake fluid can do damage to paint, so keep an eye on it. Use a turkey baster or maybe a clean rag or something to keep it from overflowing and spilling everywhere. So just keep an eye on this when you're collapsing the pistons. When you're all done, pump the brakes a few times, and then after pumping the brakes a few times to set the pistons in place, check your fluid level and adjust as necessary. Otherwise, that's replacing your front brake pads on your 2014 and other model years, I'm sure. Ram 3500 HD. I think this is good for 2500s and 3500s. Good luck to you.